Hey yo guys, so we back with another video. You feel me? Please like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I do hope you enjoy the video. Without further ado, let's get into it. Horrific deaths that were caused by anime. Okay, let's
Do
get
you
into
watch
it.
anime? Me too, but anime is dangerous. Now I know what you're thinking. How could a silly little cartoon with big tatas be dangerous?
Already.
Well, what if I told you that people have died?
Bro, that meme when it was going out with Gojo humping everybody and stuff like that, it got a little out of hand, I ain't gonna lie. Like, okay, you want to have Gojo humping Naruto, cool. Luffy, cool. Zoro, Goku, Vegeta, whatever, cool. But when y'all started bringing little, like, kids into it, that's when I was like, come on, like bringing Himawari, and there were some other people, but it just got out of hand. Like, at first it wasn't really ever funny. Well, actually, no, it kind of was. It was funny, but when they started bringing little kids into it, it's like, come on, dog, y'all serious? That's where the meme really got out of control. For me,
because of anime.
I think for
and
most
no,
people.
I don't mean from lack of hygiene. I'm talking straight murder. Let's start with the worst case on the list that happened in January 25th, 2019, the Kyoto Anime Fire. This was a giant arson attack that killed 36 innocent people and destroyed the entire studio as a whole. Kyoto Animations opened up their first studio in Kyoto, Japan in the 1980s. If you're a massive otaku, you might know them from shows like K-On!, A Silent Voice, Violet Evergarden, all the good stuff. After 30 years of receiving over 200 death threats, the studio and its animators were about to face a terrible fate. In 2019, a man named Shinji Oba had a severe mental illness. He never worked in the studio and had nothing to do with it at all, but he believed that the studio was plagiarizing people's work. Why did he believe that? I don't know. But this belief of his really ticked him off to the point that he came up with a big, scary revenge plan. Before the morning of July 17, he went to a hardware store and stocked up on over 11 gallons of gasoline. Sir, you can't. Never mind. After making the company a few $100s richer, tomorrow he was gonna make another company go to hell, literally. He would drive home and bring all of the gasoline cans into his garage. Then upstairs he goes to drift off to sleep. It's a beautiful summer morning in Japan. Unfortunately, Kyoto animators are stuck in their sweaty office all day, drawing the new season of whatever the At least they get to see their families, though. Even more unfortunately, Shinji bursts through the front door of Studio One carrying all 11 gallons of gasoline. No words, no nothing. He just starts running around the studio, dumping gasoline all over the place. The workers are in shock and not sure what to do in the situation. But before they could react, Shinji would say one thing. Before he would turn art into an explosion. This alone.
Yeah, if he actually said that, yeah, you gotta be like Joker crazy. That's not normal.
Would kill dozens.
I know he said it was crazy, but I'm saying, like, that's not normal, yo.
And it would also set the building on fire. But that's not all. As the building continued to burn down, he'd throw gasoline on people and would light them on fire, causing them to run out onto the street in flames. The fire would grow all the way to the entrance of the studio, which would trap even
Y'all let him do that?
more people inside. A few hours passed,
and
there were
jugs
over
was
20
heavy.
bodies found along the stairwell, all the way to the roof of the 3rd floor. Shinji, the culprit, would have the audacity to try to flee the scene, but thankfully 2 of the employees managed to catch his ass before he could get away. One of the employees called 911. Shortly after, they made it, but definitely not on time. The fire force, the fire department, would get the fire under control around 3 p.m. and the police would take Shinji into the cop car. Want to know the aftermath? 36 people were killed and 34 others were injured. Alongside that, Shinji's attack destroyed most of the studio's work. So you're gonna have to wait a little longer for Dragon Maid Season 3. Also, get this. During the attack, this loser set himself on
Hold
fire.
on, did he say this happened in 2025?
So he was taken to the hospital. Shinji's trial would take place 5 years later in 2024, where he was sentenced to death. Womp womp. The next case.
Hold on.
Do you watch case on the list that happened in January 25th, 2019? The Kyoto.
I thought he said
Watashi.
2025. I was like, I did not hear about this. You know what I'm saying? Because something like this would definitely be on the news. You know what I'm saying? You know how you open Google and it would definitely be on there.
Kira this. Translating
Bro,
to,
it definitely
I
would've
am
got
Kira.
pretty big on
For those
Twitter
who
or
don't
something.
know, Kira is the main character in Death Note. Obviously, the two dudes
Definitely.
reported the
Alright.
incident, and the people show up to investigate. One detective states that there was a possibility that maybe a couple medical students placed the body as a prank. By 2012, 4 different suspects were arrested and interrogated because in Japan, they do not mess around. The conviction rate is 99%. So when you get sent to prison, expect to receive some shots.
That's actually that explains why Japan is so safe. Like I've heard people talk about like Japan and stuff. Like I've watched videos on it, and people are like, yeah, you know, you're walking around, you'll see a bunch of teenagers, you know, 15, 16, whatever. They're able to just walk around because it's so safe. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know how like in New York, you know, they got the train station. Well, they have a train station in Japan, which I'm pretty sure most of you guys know. That's pretty much what it is down there, just a lot safer. You know what I'm saying? Like 14, 13-year-olds just going around hanging at shops, you know what I'm saying, cafes, whatever they want to go, and because it's just so safe down there, you know what I'm saying? Because the Yakuza, I'm pretty sure they have been getting, you know, a little lower. It's like the mafia, right? A lot of that stuff, it's not as big as it used to be. It's still big. It's just not as big as it once was. They're not really doing crime like how they once were. So it's like probably really safe down there, to be honest. That's crazy.
Yes, I do mean from
That's
the
crazy.
back. 3 of the 4
Like, imagine if America was that safe. And imagine if the arrest rate down here was that safe in America. Oh my gosh, man. Hey, man, the world probably would be a better place. If it was like that in every country, holy, I can only imagine how good, like, the world would be.
4 of the suspects were sentenced to over 20 years in prison, but
Like,
the
the
last
world
one
would
got
be,
off
like,
scotch-free. How much you want to bet
amazing.
he was the one who did it? Or was this dude even real? Who knows? Anyways, mind telling me your name? Next, we have one that's very, very disturbing, so don't say I didn't warn you. It's the Otaku Killer. This is based around the dude named Tsutomu Miyazaki. He was born into a rich family, but later down the road, he would turn into one of the worst serial killers in Japan. Despite being rich, Miyazaki was born with a rare deformity that prevented him from bending his wrists. In elementary school, kids would make fun of him and bully him for it. He never told his parents about it, so every day he just sucked it up and took the hits. But there's only so much a person can take. Pause. He was a top student for most of his life, until suddenly his grades started to drop to D's and F's. After that, his life just went downhill. He didn't get into his dream college, he was living with his parents, and he was forced to take over the family business. So as expected, he went down a very dark path. To escape his dog reality, he started watching things like anime, horror films, and hentai. Also, is it just me, or do I just really love drawing boobs? He would watch so much to the point where he was practically in his own little fantasy world. After just 1 year, he had over 5,000 recordings of animes and slasher films saved on his computer, alongside other things. He started to crave things like attention and being listened to, but nobody would be there for him, except his grandpa. Since his parents were so busy, his grandpa took care of him for most of his life, so at least there was a little bit of hope. Miyazaki had no real friends, so his grandpa was really all he had. But like all of us, that would not last. In the 1980s, his grandpa would pass away, which would sink him down into a deep depression.
hell,
It
man.
only goes
It's
downhill
crazy.
from here,
That's
so
hell.
prepare yourself. When he received his grandpa's ashes, he tried to eat them to try to retain something from him. He then moved in with his sister, but was kicked out a month later for trying to spy on and record her taking a shower. On top of that, he tried to attack her. His mom then confronted him for doing such a terrible thing,
Okay.
and demanded that he spent more time working and less time with his videos. Those words would set him off, and he attacked his own damn mother. A few months later, he committed his first of 4 murders.
His
It was
mom?
4 girls between the ages of 4 and 7.
Let's talk about it.
That's a
The
little
first
strange.
victim was a little girl
That's a little weird. Why? Those are odd ages. That's a odd age gap. I'm not gonna lie.
playing at a friend's house who would suddenly disappear. Nobody could find her. The parents were worried sick. But little did they know, Miyazaki grabbed her, took her to the back of his Nissan Langley, and drove her all the way to the underside of a bridge, where he would do some extremely disgusting things that I will never mention on YouTube, and
Figured.
ended her life.
Figured. Cause literally, well, why do you, like, what made you want to do that? You know what I'm saying? Kids, come on. I mean, I get what most, like, what would make you want to do that in the first place? But when you tell me, like, another adult going around doing that to other adults, you know, I'm like, all right, you know, when it's the opposite gender, when it's both genders, I'm like, okay, whatever. I guess he's just crazy. When it's the opposite gender, I'm like, okay, so he's crazy and he's probably, you know, doing weird things with these women. Then you tell me it's underage. I'm like, you're crazy. You're a weirdo. You're doing weird things with these little girls. You're a P3DO, and yeah. That's, I mean, come on. There's no way. Like, there's most people who are like serial killers and all that. They don't just randomly like kill little kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just randomly do that. You definitely did something to them before that. You don't just take 4 kids and you just go crazy. No, you did something before that, then you did what you did.
Some
you know what I'm saying?
Imaginable. It's sad. A child
sad, though. That's
shielded
crazy.
by her own.
Also, from 4 to 7 is even, now that I'm realizing, that's actually even crazier. 4? Come on, dog. Do better.
Innocence would lose every last goddamn shred of hope. To this beyond low, insufferable, replaceable, laceable, worthless piece of I don't want to get too graphic, so I'm gonna leave out a few details here. But he repeated this process 4 different times. Alongside that, he dismembered the bodies to drink the blood of his victims, and even ate some of the body parts. This is just getting worse and worse. But thankfully it comes to an end very soon. Miyazaki was one day walking around the playground, with a camera of course, and he found 2 sisters playing in a sandbox. He noticed the dad wasn't looking, so of course, like the piece of he is, he went up to one of the sisters and separated her from the other one. Long story short, he would try to convince the young girl to do weird things. But thankfully, thank the heavens, the dad shows up and he gives him a little tap on the shoulder. And by a tap, I mean he beat his ass. After the dad beats up Miyazaki, he calls the cops, and finally, Miyazaki is arrested. His trial took place in 1990, and of course he pleaded not guilty, blaming his actions on some alter ego named Ratman. He even spent time drawing this Ratman mid-trial to try and prove it to the judge. That wasn't fooling anybody. Miyazaki was sentenced to death. His execution took place in 2008, where he was hung at the Tokyo Detention House. You could argue that anime has nothing to do with this guy's disgusting actions, and you're definitely right, but I needed a title for the video, so I don't know. Boo-hoo, man. Now, those were some people who ended others over anime.
I was thinking that myself. I was like, what does this really have to do with anime? Because they liked anime? I'm like, none of this really had to do anything with anime, so I know I was gonna say that, but then I was just like, whatever. But I mean, I guess, like you said, for the title.
But what about those who ended themselves? Anime fandoms tend to
not gonna lie, that's what made me click on it.
Have some of the worst things that's on the face of this earth. But out of all of the fandoms, nothing comes as close to hell as My Hero Academia. 2 years ago, a super popular character named Katsuki Bakugo was killed off in the series. This led to massive complaints, many tears were shed, and 14 people off.
Well, dang, he could have said spoiler alert coming
over
up.
this.
I mean, I already knew, but come on, dog.
14 people! Now, I know this also has nothing to do with the anime, because I don't think there's one anime worth dying for. Unless it's ReZe. But you could probably assume that these 14 people had a rough life at home, or severe mental issues. It's really...
The last dude didn't seem to really have much of a rough life. He was just severely, like, not okay.
sad to see. But you know what makes it 10 million times worse? They brought him back 2 days later. Now, I'm sure we've learned a very valuable lesson today. Don't get emotionally attached to something that can't give you the same thing back. Anime isn't the problem. It's you. Speaking of you, here's a video about your entire life.
Why it sucks to be born. Okay, that's a little... Okay, that's a little weird, but alright. Anyway, guys, hope you did enjoy the video. Please like, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and I hope you enjoy the video. I'm out.